What it is, y'all, it is your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back today with more Konosuba. Now, today we're going to be talking about the new battle arena. This dropped a couple days ago, and I'm going to be honest, we haven't really talked about it up to this point because my Earth team is pretty tragically bad. But I want to see if maybe my deficit, and I'm sure some other people's as well, can maybe turn into everyone's gain. So let's jump in, let's talk about this, okay? I'm always going to go into advanced, I'm always going to do the hardest setting. And we're going to do a training session. But first, I actually want to go back here and read what this says, okay? Beware of lightning magic attacks and bind attacks. Enemies are relatively weak to bind and magic attacks. So we really want to focus on our Earth magic team, and we really want to try to put somebody on here who has some bind attacks. Now, this is the team that I had initially put together after some finagling with it. And I'll be honest, actually, I had another team that was significantly better, but, you know, we're here now. This team could use some help. It really is lacking in a few very critical areas. Now, you will notice that we do have, on everyone but her, we've got level 4 equips, and most of them are pretty well upgraded. So it is a pretty beefy team. But I am lacking a little bit in the defensive stats over here on her. And if I'm honest, I'm actually not completely sold that using the 4-star here is my best option. Now, I do like some of what she does. So if we click here, this is an Earth physical attack to one enemy. We really do want to focus on one enemy. There's not really an AoE aspect to this. And I like this one here. Moderate boost to physical and magic defense for all allies. So for 12 turns. So when she gets that attack off, everybody else is going to have better defenses. But, if I'm totally honest here, defenses really aren't our biggest concern point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of trade her out. I really want somebody that has bind. Plus, my biggest problem with her, and it's actually my biggest problem with my Earth team in general, go here to training, go to upgrade skill, she has no upgrades whatsoever. Now, I do have, 14 of these. I could upgrade a few units. I'm not ready to do that. I'm actually waiting. I kind of feel like maybe collab units or some better units could really get those rewards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on really trying to find a unit that's going to be a great fit here. Now, we do have quite a few 3-stars, and I feel like there might be a 3-star in here that's going to be a good fit. Probably case in point this one, okay? Now, she does a lot of fire attack, but if you notice here, on this skill, it is a 138% fire physical damage to one enemy and moderate chance to bind. Now, her SA is always going to be Earth Attack. Her SAs are always Earth Attack. So, we're not really surprised about that there. Her main attacks are fire, but that bind might come in handy. So, we could try this. Fire physical damage to one enemy, 181% if the enemy has a status attack. So, I'm actually going to put her in our main slot. Now, that does put us at the slight disadvantage because, once again, our primary attack is a fire attack, not an earth attack. The earth attack really only comes into play, with the SA. But I think that's going to be fine. I'm also going to go ahead and look at Yun here, see if maybe I can kind of push her off. Now, once again, I do have some of these 4-stars, but I don't believe... Well, actually, he does have a few upgrades. Let's see what he does. Now, he's physical. Let's see. Earth physical damage to one enemy. And then 125% earth physical damage to all enemies. And nullifies bind on all allies. Ooh. You know what? I don't know if we've been affected by bind, but I think that's going to be worth the cost. I really do. Now, he does do physical attack. So I'm going to go ahead and change that out. Give him this equip. Yeah, I think that's going to be the right choice. Now, it does mean that my assists are going to have to change a little bit, and that's fine. We'll go ahead and change those up. And I am going to do an auto run, but we're going to pay really close attention to make sure that everything is kind of going as planned, that we maybe bind our opponent, and that maybe we don't get bound nearly as much. Let's see, what does this SA do? So 280 normal physical damage to one enemy, and significant boost to physical defense for all allies. So that'd be really, really, really nice. It is not upgraded, and frankly, at this point, it's probably my biggest problem is that none of these units, aside from Aqua, have any real upgrades to speak of. Let's do... I guess it doesn't really matter what she gets, because it's not going to change much of anything. There we go. I wish I had Chunjunmaru. I actually don't. For whatever reason, Goddess Mellors have not been dropping for me, so unfortunately I'm there. And that kind of puts me in an unfavorable slot. But you know what? I think this is going to be good. So let's go ahead and do a quick training session. And I'm going to slow this down and see if we can just kind of address what's happening with this team and see if maybe there's some other changes we can make. So I'm going to slow this down here. Oh, we do have an AoE. I didn't think there was much of an AoE to this, but there we go. Those early fights don't last very long. Boom, boom. And once again, I do realize if I was manually running this, I would want to do AoE attacks predominantly here, and they are kind of focusing on single target. So maybe moving some of my AoE units from the backside to the front side wouldn't be such a bad thing. But some of my backline units are really there. They have a lot of healing, and I really want to save most of that healing for the late game. So let's see. We got an SA right out of the gate. Very, very, very nice. Love just these early essays. Boom. Aqua, what you got, girl? Boom. Now, our opponent is not bound. Let's see if we can afflict him with some bind. I believe we're just doing skill 3s here. We need a skill 2, and we need some bind. Oh, girl. Okay, no bind yet. Ooh, got a nice critical hit there. Love it, and we've got some healing. Looks like this team is doing pretty well. You will notice that there are quite a few statuses, but here's the biggest issue, is we don't have any status effects on our opponent. So really what I might want to do is I might want to... Okay. Alright, doesn't look like we are bound. I think that's what he was trying to do there. Oh, we lost our first unit. We lost our first unit. That's okay. She kind of had the lowest defense of all of them. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. Now, do you remember that she would have hit a lot harder had we had some status amulets on there? So once again, moving Aqua to the back and maybe letting, I don't know, anybody else that has a status effect come in play actually might have been really interesting for the early game. Plus, I do have a bunch of units here that do have AoE attacks, and maybe moving them to the front line and focusing on their AoE while also reducing some of their attack damage would be really nice. But we haven't actually affected them with any kind of ailment yet. So, or ailment or element or... Yeah, I don't see anything applied to him. And some of these are supposed to, you know, reduce magic defense and things like that. I haven't seen that effect at all at this point. And that is another kind of questionable situation there. Our healer did come in a bit late in the game, so I might need to do something a little strategic with that. Let's see, what is our... So our practice score is still 930, so I still haven't beaten the 1.1 I got up there, but honestly, these numbers aren't very good. So let's go back out here one more time. And let's kind of focus on this team and see what this team needs. For those of you that, like I said, like me, don't have very good Earth teams, this might be a great opportunity to assess what you've got and just kind of see where you stand in this regard. Because me personally, I actually think I'm going to move Aqua to the back line here. Let's see. Yeah, let's trade their places. Now, let's see. She does healing there, but she doesn't have any element on that. Do we just not have anybody that has an ailment? He'll remove bind, which isn't bad. And she applies bind. So maybe, just maybe, let's swap her out and see if maybe we have somebody else that has some kind of effect. So this one will do magic... minor boost to magic attack for all allies 10 seconds. I like that. And since most of our units are magic, that'd be really nice. let's see what this unit does. Okay, she does healing. So a lot of healing, but not a lot of damage, and that's kind of the number one problem that I'm kind of taking away from this. So let's see, that's all magic defense. So a lot of this is defensive. None of this really is affecting our opponent. We need some effects to our opponents. We're not going to use a darkness. I don't... For as little as darkness is, she's not going to affect him with any kind of ailments. So I don't feel like that's really the correct maneuver here. Let's try this one more time. Let's see. Significant chance to bind them. Let's run her. Now, once again, she does do ailment, but I think with what she's got here, that significant chance to bind might be worthwhile. So let's try that. She's going to have some healing. I'm actually going to swap those out because he is a predominantly physical unit. Let's put Aqua back on the front lines. There we go. Because remember, since we're boosting magic attack, or are we boosting magic attack? I think. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Normal physical damage to one enemy, significant reduction of magic defense. That's what I'm thinking of. Reduction of magic defense, not magic attack. So, that's another element that would be applied to our opponent here. So with that magic defense deficit, that does mean that our units are going to be able to hit a little bit harder. And, being that he's physical, he's not going to be in kind of peak condition there. I'm also going to swap that out, give her a little bit more defense than what we had before. I think that's going to be a good team composition, but there's only one way to find out. Let's run one more. And this might be a back to the drawing board type of situation where I'm just not thinking it, all the way through, and I'm not really gaining what I need out of this. Now this is all going to be single target, isn't it? We need AoE attacks. So I didn't pay close enough attention to make sure we're getting AoEs. I believe everybody here is doing single target, and that is most likely a problem. I probably need to readdress it and put some AoEs on the front. There we go. Now, it's nice that she got the last attack. If I was really doing this manually, that's what I probably would have done. Only because she needs to boost her SA gauge. And I'm going to set SAs to last wave only just so we don't squander them here. There we go. Now, once again, manually running this, I am aware we probably would do significantly better. I could do skips, which give us a little bit more attack damage and things like that. But at the moment, we are kind of where we are with this. All right. Here come the SAs. And I feel like this is going to SA in the correct order. Yes, it is. So there goes his magic defense. That is going to be an ailment, but it is going to be an effect. And that then is obviously going to allow old girl there to hit a bit harder. Not Aqua, the other one. There we go. Nice. She got a critical hit too on top of that. So beautiful. So actually it already looks like we're getting a bit of extra damage. We got some healing there. That's kind of one of the biggest problems with this team is there's just so much healing. I feel like there's not enough damage being dealt. And that might just be one of those things that you kind of have to manually run this team to alleviate that. But at this juncture, I'm not quite ready to do that. I want to continue doing the auto run to see what happens. Ooh, he's got bind. Let's go. Let's go. Our agility's bolstered. That's absolutely perfect. No one is affected by the bind. Let's keep going. Now, the downside is I don't see a lot of damage. And that is kind of a bad thing. That means that the number one thing that I really need to do is I need to put somebody in the front that does do AoE damage. And I think that's kind of our biggest downfall with this team at the moment, is that we just don't have any early AoEs, and I really, really, really need that. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest tips that I can say, is that really make sure you have somebody on the front line that can wipe out those AoE teams, because then you'll be able to get... See, I even went down score as well. So I really need to modify my team, put some AoEs on the front. So if you want my opinion here, and take away from this what you would like to take away, but I really feel like having somebody on the front line that does do AoE. There we go, all allies. Let's go ahead and swap her and Aqua. And I kind of feel like that might make just an insane difference. Let's do this one more time, see what we get. Whenever it decides to load. Here we go. Third time lucky. So, boom, nice. There we go. Now she's going to be on cooldown with that AoE for a minute. Hopefully we get it back here shortly. But it looks like I actually might need one more unit with AoE. So that might be the other half of this situation. Now, if everybody attacks you with single targets... There we go. Ooh, nice. We got a critical, too, on top of it. I love seeing that. Man, I love watching these teams work. But the biggest issue is all my 4-stars pretty much lack any kind of, bond or dupe or anything like that. All right, so now we just need single targets. There we go. We got some healing. There you go. Come on. Kill it with fire. Yeah, I kind of feel like, this portion of the fight is taking way too long. So I do need a second AoE. That is for absolute certain. So, there you go, guys. Notice how bad my score is right now, and kind of where I sit. So make sure you do have AoE. That is the one thing that I have kind of actively, not forgotten about per se, but kind of misjudged. So maybe we'll come back and we'll revisit this, and we'll do some manual runs and kind of reassess. But hopefully you kind of get an idea of what you need to do with your team to make sure you're building the most effective team humanly possible to take on this opponent. So I'm going to personally readdress this. I know my Earth team is bad. My Earth team generally is bad. I don't have to run Earth units, so probably what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take a couple units off here and trade them out and run maybe some of my really stellar fire or dark units or something. And that's actually what I did to get my earlier score. So probably running a really good AoE on here might actually have significant benefit. Ooh, that did not look good. But you can see the score is definitely suffering. So I'll call this part 1 of the arena team building. I'll do a little bit more, and maybe here in 24 hours we'll come revisit this and we'll do a part 2 and kind of see what the results are, because one of the things that I think a lot of trial and error here, and a lot of research and development of teams, is one of those things that I think is significantly lacking. And not just here's the team you need to build, but here's why, and here's the testing, and here's all that. So consider this part 1. We'll come back in 48 hours, do a part 2, and see how much we've progressed, and see how much better off we are, and go from there. So this is part 1. I'll see you guys here in a couple days for part 2.